4:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The duty officer at NORAD blinks at his screen. A thermal signature blooms over the Barents Sea. Bright, fast, rising. It shouldn't be there. His hand hovers over the alert button. Protocol says, confirm before escalating. But the signature is already splitting. 1 becomes 3. 3 becomes 7. The trajectory lines arc across his display, like the fingers of death reaching toward the continental United States. He presses the button. In that instant, 17 minutes begin. 17 minutes that will separate the world that was from the world that will never be the same. 17 minutes where every assumption about safety, about civilization, about tomorrow, burns away like morning frost under a sun that should never rise. The sirens don't wail, not yet. The public sleeps. They dream of mortgages and meetings and weekend plans. They don't know that above them encrypted signals scream through military networks at the speed of light. They don't know that in bunkers beneath mountains, men are authenticating codes that were never supposed to be real. As the missiles climb toward the edge of space, one question hangs in the pressurized air of command centers across 3 continents. Is this the mistake that ends everything, or the attack that demands everything in return? The alert reaches the Pentagon at 4:04 a.m. 6 ballistic missiles. Launch origin, Russian Northern Fleet submarine positions. Trajectory, East Coast Urban Corridor. Impact time, 17 minutes. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs is on a secure line in 45 seconds. His voice is steady, but his hand grips the phone hard enough to whiten his knuckles. Confirmed source. Confirm count. Confirm trajectory. The response comes in clipped military precision. Source confirmed. Multiple ground stations. 7 missiles now. Hypersonic reentry vehicles detected. This is not a drill. Not a drill. The words that were always supposed to remain theoretical. At 4:05 a.m., the president is moving down the corridor toward the Situation Room. He's wearing a jacket over his pajamas. His chief of staff walks beside him, reading from a tablet in the harsh fluorescent light. NORAD confirms multiple ICBM launches from Russian submarines in the Arctic. Current trajectory suggests New York, Washington, Philadelphia. The president's face doesn't change. He's rehearsed this scenario in exercises. But exercises don't include the taste of copper in your mouth or the way your vision seems to sharpen and narrow simultaneously. 16 minutes remain. In Moscow, it's 12:05 p.m. President Volkov is being ushered into the Kremlin's underground command facility. His intelligence chief is speaking rapidly in Russian, but the technical terms need no translation. Launch, missiles, trajectory. We didn't authorize this, Volkov says. His voice is ice over steel. Find out which submarine. Find out now. But information takes time. Time they don't have. Because at 4:06 a.m. Eastern Time, American early warning systems detect the second wave. 4 more missiles. Different origin point. These are coming from silos in western Russia. Ilevan missiles total. The pattern suggests a decapitation strike. Take out leadership. Destroy command and control. Leave the nation headless before it can respond. The president reaches the Situation Room. Wall screens show the missile trajectories as clean red arcs against a map of the Northern Hemisphere. They look almost elegant, abstract. until you remember that each arc represents a city deleted from existence. How long? The president asks. 14 minutes to first impact. 14 minutes. The human brain can't process annihilation in 14 minutes. It can only process the next decision. What are options? The Secretary of Defense speaks first. Mr. President, we have to assume this is a full first strike. Our submarine forces are ready. Our silos can launch on your order. But, sir, if we wait for impact confirmation, we lose the ability to respond effectively. Russian counterforce doctrine assumes we'll be destroyed before we can retaliate. The room is silent except for the whisper of air conditioning and the soft click of keyboards. You're asking me to launch before we know if this is real. Sir, it is real. We have 11 confirmed launches. Confirmed by sensors that have given false alarms before. Never like this. Never this many. Never this coordinated. 13 minutes remain. At 4:07 a.m., secure communications flash between Washington and Moscow on the hotline that was designed for exactly this moment. The American message is direct. We have detected multiple missile launches from Russian territory. Clarify intentions immediately. We are preparing defensive and retaliatory measures. The response comes back at 4:09 a.m. Russian Federation has detected no launches from our forces. We are receiving reports of American ICBM activity. Explain immediately, or we will assume hostile action. Both sides are seeing different realities. In the Norwegian Sea, the USS Key West, a Los Angeles-class submarine, has been tracking a Russian Delta IV nuclear submarine for 6 hours. When the launch detection alert reaches Key West, her captain faces an impossible calculation. The Russian sub carries 16 ballistic missiles. If it's part of a coordinated first strike, it could launch at any moment. If it's not, and he fires first, he starts the war that kills civilization. The Russian submarine captain is doing the same math. He received orders to maintain patrol depth and await further instructions, but his communications are fragmentary. The words American launch keep appearing in the signals traffic. His orders say if Russia is under attack, he is authorized to retaliate with his full payload. Both captains are trained professionals. Both are terrified. Both are responsible for more destructive power than was used in all of World War II. Neither knows what's real. Back in Washington, intelligence is fragmenting into contradictory pieces. The CIA reports no Russian military mobilization before the launches. That makes no sense for a planned first strike. The NSA intercepts Russian military communications that sound genuinely confused. That makes no sense for a coordinated attack. But the missiles are still climbing. 11 warheads, each one carrying 40 times the destructive power of Hiroshima. 11 minutes remain. At 4:10 a.m., cities begin to learn they're going to die. The emergency alert system activates across the eastern seaboard. Not the familiar Amber Alert tone, the nuclear attack warning. A sound that hasn't been broadcast since the Cold War tests. Your phone screams at you. Your television, if it's on, shows a stark message. Ballistic missile threat inbound. Seek immediate shelter? This is not a drill. You're in bed. The sound of the alert pulls you from sleep into a nightmare that's worse because it's real. Your hands shake as you grab your phone. The screen shows the alert. Every news app shows the same headline. Nuclear attack imminent. You have 11 minutes, maybe. What do you do? Your children are asleep down the hall. Your basement isn't a fallout shelter. You live 6 miles from downtown Philadelphia. If a warhead detonates over City Hall, your house is inside the fireball radius. You won't have time to feel anything. You'll just cease to exist between one heartbeat and the next. But you don't know that. You only know that every instinct is screaming at you to do something. Grab your family. Get in the car. Drive anywhere that isn't here. Across the eastern seaboard, 8 million people have the same thought simultaneously. The highways become parking lots in 4 minutes. At 4:11 a.m., the president gives the order that changes everything. Scramble our ICBMs. Don't launch, but get them ready. The command propagates through encrypted networks. In missile silos across Montana, Wyoming, and North Dakota, massive silo doors begin to open. Beneath the planes, in reinforced concrete tubes 60 feet deep, Minuteman III missiles prepare for launch. Each missile carries 3 warheads. Each warhead can level a city. The United States has 450 ICBMs. The order doesn't launch them, but it brings them to a state where they can launch in 60 seconds. Russian satellites detect the silo door openings at 4:13 a.m. Moscow time. To Russian early warning systems, this looks like preparation for counterstrike, or worse, preparation for a first strike of their own. In the Kremlin bunker, President Volkov receives the intelligence. American missile silos are opening. This confirms hostile action. We still don't know where our launches came from, his defense minister says. Our submarine commanders report no authorization given. Then someone gave authorization without telling us. Or the Americans are lying about detecting launches to justify their own attack. Volkov's face is granite. Prepare our forces for immediate launch. If American missiles leave their silos, we respond with everything. 9 minutes remain until the first warheads impact the East Coast. In the Norwegian Sea, the standoff between USS Key West and the Russian Delta IV submarine ends. The Russian captain, receiving fragmentary reports of American silo openings and missile launches, makes his decision. His orders are clear. If Russia is under attack, retaliate. At 4:13 a.m. Eastern Time, the Russian submarine rises to launch depth. Key West sonar operator hears the ballast tanks blow. Skipper, contact is rising. He's going to launch depth. The American captain has 10 seconds to decide. If the Russian sub launches its 16 missiles, they'll add to the nightmare already in progress. Hundreds of thousands more dead. Maybe millions. He gives the order. 2 Mark 48 torpedoes scream through the dark water. The Russian submarine doesn't stand a chance. The warheads detonate against her hull. The Delta IV breaks apart in a cascading internal explosion. 137 Russian sailors die instantly. But her destruction is detected. Russian Naval Command receives the catastrophic loss signal. A nuclear missile submarine destroyed in combat with American forces. From Moscow's perspective, this confirms everything. The launches were American. The confusion was deception. The war is real. At 4:14 a.m., Russia begins launching its full strategic arsenal. The Russian counterstrike is massive. 147 ICBMs leave their silos across Siberia and the Urals. The launches are staggered over 90 seconds, but to American early warning systems they appear as a coordinated wave of annihilation. The president receives the update in the situation room. His face drains of color. How many? Over 100 confirmed launches, sir, still counting. The Secretary of Defense's voice is hollow. Mr. President, this is a full strategic exchange. We're out of time. If we don't launch now, our silos will be destroyed on the ground. The logic of nuclear war is cruelly simple. Use them or lose them. If you wait for the enemy missiles to arrive, your own missiles become targets. Silos are hardened, but they can't survive a direct hit. If you don't launch before the enemy warheads arrive, you lose your ability to retaliate. The president looks at the red arcs multiplying across the screens. Each one is a city. Each one is hundreds of thousands of lives. The original 11 missiles are now joined by hundreds more, from both sides. 7 minutes until the first impacts. He picks up the phone that connects to the National Military Command Center. His voice doesn't shake. It's the voice of a man who has aged a lifetime in 11 minutes. Execute. Full strategic response. The authentication codes go out. In silos across the American Midwest, launch officers turn their keys simultaneously. They've trained for this moment their entire careers. They always assumed it would never come. The Minuteman II is ignite. 450 missiles rise from the planes in a coordinated salvo. Each one leaves a plume of smoke and fire visible for 30 miles. Each one carries death for 3 cities. America's Ohio-class submarines lurking in the deep oceans receive their launch orders. They rise to launch depth. Missile hatches open. Trident, 2 missiles, each carrying 8 warheads, begin their sequence. 24 missiles per submarine. 14 submarines at sea. Over 2,000 warheads. The British and French strategic forces, seeing the exchange in progress, activate their own missiles. They're smaller arsenals, but still enough to delete nations. At 4:17 a.m., human civilization begins its suicide. You're in your basement now. You grabbed your children. They're crying. Your spouse is trying to comfort them, but her hands won't stop shaking. You found the emergency radio, the one you bought after that hurricane 3 years ago. It's crackling with fragmentary reports. ... Multiple impacts confirmed. Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, under imminent ... The signal dies, not from attack, from overload. Every frequency is jammed with final messages. Above you, the sky is beginning to glow, not from sunrise, from the exhaust plumes of hundreds of missiles rising from silos across the plains. You can't see them from your basement, but if you could look outside, you'd see contrails forming a grid across the pre-dawn sky. Beautiful and terrible. 3 minutes until impact. In Moscow, in Beijing, in London, in Paris, in every capital city with access to the strategic networks, leaders are watching the same displays. The northern hemisphere is traced with red arcs. Each arc a trajectory. Each trajectory a destination that will cease to exist. Some people pray. Some people call their families. Some people just sit in silence, watching civilization end on high-resolution displays. In the NORAD Command Center, a junior analyst is still trying to trace the original launches. The 11 missiles that started everything. Her fingers fly across her keyboard. She's ignored 3 evacuation orders. She needs to know. At 4:18 a.m., she finds it. Sir, the original launches, I've traced them. Her supervisor is already moving toward the evacuation tunnel. Doesn't matter now. Sir, they came from a decommissioned submarine. Soviet-era WW3. It's been out of service for 8 years. Last known location was a scrapyard in Murmansk. He stops. Turns. What? The launches. They weren't authorized by Moscow. The submarine isn't even in active service. Someone reactivated it. Someone not in the Russian command structure. The supervisor stares at her. The implications are too vast. Too late. Who? I don't know. But, sir, this means the lights go out. Not from power failure. From the electromagnetic pulse of the first warhead detonating in the upper atmosphere above Washington, D.C., the pulse fries every unshielded electronic system within 200 miles. Computers die. Cars stop, phones go dark. The command center switches to backup power. But half the displays don't come back online. 2 minutes until ground impacts. At 4:19 a.m., the first warhead reaches its target, New York City. The detonation occurs 4,000 feet above Midtown Manhattan, the optimal altitude for maximizing destruction. The fireball expands at millions of degrees. Glass melts. Steel vaporizes. Human bodies don't burn. They simply cease to exist. The blast wave follows microseconds later. Buildings don't collapse. They disintegrate. The pressure wave travels faster than sound. You don't hear the explosion that kills you. The mushroom cloud rises into the pre-dawn sky, visible for 60 miles. The fallout begins immediately, spreading northeast on the prevailing winds. 800,000 people die in the first second. 3 million more will die in the next hour from injuries, radiation, and the collapse of every system that keeps a city alive. At 4:19 a.m. and 30 seconds, Washington, D.C. experiences the same deletion. The warhead detonates above the Capitol building. Congress, the Supreme Court, half the executive branch, gone in a flash of light brighter than the sun. Philadelphia, Boston, Baltimore, Norfolk, each city receives its own private apocalypse. Each detonation creates a sun-hot sphere of destruction. Each leaves a crater and a cloud and a spreading wave of fallout. You're in your basement. The first you know of it is the sound, not the explosion. You're too far from ground zero for that. You hear the rumble, deep, subsonic, the sound of buildings collapsing 15 miles away, the sound of a city dying. Then your house shakes, not from the blast, from the earthquake created by millions of tons of debris hitting the ground simultaneously. Pictures fall from walls. Cracks appear in your foundation. Your power is already out from the EMP. Your phone is dead. Your car won't start. You're sitting in darkness with your family, listening to the death of everything you knew. 1 minute remains. Across the Atlantic, London burns. Paris burns. Berlin burns. In Russia, Moscow experiences 3 simultaneous detonations. St. Petersburg, Volgograd, Yekaterinburg. The pattern is identical. Airbursts, maximum casualties, optimized destruction. In the Pacific, Chinese cities join the pyre. Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, each one erased in seconds. Each one contributing its mushroom cloud to the dozens already rising into the stratosphere. The submarines are still launching. They don't know the war is already over. They're executing orders from command centers that no longer exist. Missiles rise from the ocean. Missiles that will hit targets already destroyed. Overkill in the most literal sense. At 4:20 a.m., the last of the original 11 missiles detonates over Philadelphia, the city where the Constitution was written, where the Declaration of Independence was signed, where the idea of America was born. The irony is lost in the fireball. At 4:21 a.m., the strategic exchange is effectively complete. 600 warheads have detonated across the northern hemisphere. Cities that held the accumulated knowledge, culture, and population of human civilization are burning. The remaining missiles are still in flight, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. Civilization didn't end with a bang. It ended with hundreds of bangs cascading across time zones, each one erasing a piece of human achievement.